variance in the frequency and the density and the feel, not only among different species of trees, but within a given tree. So when you take a huge Sitka tree and you cut it into Tonewood sets, and you say, oh, we're going to cut every one to 110 thousandths inch, and we're going to make it this dimension, and every guitar will sound the same. Guess what? Every piece of wood is completely different. It's unique. In that Sitka tree, it'll be up to 30% different. What does that mean, different? The distance from here to here, because this is how it flexes, right? You've got the string pulling from here to here, trying to pull up. And as you activate the strings, it lets that top go up and down. And so it's moving this way. If that's stiffer, then you're going to have to drive it harder to get the sound out of it, right? If it's less stiff, then it's going to be more responsive and play more fingerstyle. If it's too flexible, what's going to happen when you really drive it? It's not going to hold up for you, right? So depending upon the length here, because if you take a bigger body guitar, you got a longer length, right? And then the style of play that you want to have, so that would determine what kind of a deflection you want. But then also the frequency, if you look at the perfect guitar is going to have a separation on the back frequency to the top. Do you hear the difference? It's higher in the back, right? Now, the air volume in this guitar is different than the air volume in this guitar, right? Because it's bigger. So I'm going to change the frequency separation that I'm going to want from here to here, depending upon the body, depending upon the action I'm trying to get. Do I want a fingerstyle guitar? Do I want something I could really play percussive and play aggressively or not? So when I take that piece of Sitka or Adirondack or red cedar, the first thing I have to say is, what am I going to build with this piece of wood? What does the player play like? What body shape is it going to be? What kind of an action? What kind of a sound are we shooting for? And then that'll tell me the deflection, the frequency that I'll want on the top, and the separation I'll want on the back. And you're looking at me and you're going like, what's he talking about? So we come over here to what we call an FFT analyzer. And what this does is it tells us the modes. So a guitar top has a mode across here, a mode across here, a mode across here. So when you tap it, people that think that a guitar top moves like a speaker, it doesn't. It dances. So these different modes, if you go under a laser beam and you had, the slow light, you're looking at it, you would see a circle here and here and here, and then it would move up over here, and you get a bigger circle over here as it goes through its different frequencies. Colin, can we bring up, you got it ready to go?
Yes, sir.
So what this tells us is we can take pieces of wood, or we can take a finished guitar, which I'm going to do, and I tap on it. Okay, and what this tells me is the fundamental frequency of this guitar, the frequency that it responds to. What would you say, Colin? That's about 210? 110?
I'm going to give it 110.
Yep.
On that spike.
Which is about what it should be for a smaller body guitar. So then we can, I'm getting ahead of us. Because what we really do to get to that point is we start and we'll, you want to clear that up? Okay, so that tells us that the first frequency of this top is here, the second one is here, and the third one is here as it goes across here in diagonal. So we'll actually say, okay, if our target guitar, let's say I want to build a concert guitar. I want it to be a versatile. I want to be able to strum it and finger style it. I don't want to heavy strum it, and I don't want to really light play it. So I want a very versatile guitar. And then I'm going to use Sitka spruce for my top. Now I know from building thousands of guitars, I'm going to want to be in the range of 165 and 185 hertz on that top. Okay, so on my tree I've got 30% variance. So what do? I sand it thinner or thicker depending upon what the characteristic of that piece of wood is. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Right? Okay, then if I want the separation on the back, once I have this one where I want it, and I know the separation hertz that I want here, that tells me where I want this one to be, right? Do the same thing, tap in, find out where I'm at, and then I'll sand and sand and sand until I get to that target frequency.
Are you sanding the whole board evenly?
Yeah. Actually, we use a time saver. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It just runs it through, and then we mic it, we'll weigh it, we'll tap it, and so forth. Then we go the next step. And we literally put every one of our tops into a frame like this. 100% of the guitars that we make in the USA, we do this hand voicing process. So we've chosen the guitar we're going to build. We've sanded the top to the thinness that will be ideal for that guitar. We put the bracing on it. Now what happens when we put the bracing on? As you add material, the frequency goes up. Okay? So, but it's also variability, because this is wood, and just like the top, each piece is a little bit different. The bracing's a little bit different. So we go in what we call a hand voicing room, and we do the same thing. We'll take this and we'll tap on it, and it'll show us, yeah, we didn't clear that out, but it'll show us where those frequencies are for the first, second, and third mode. And then we actually hand plane on the bracing to bring it right where we want it. And then we take the back and we do exactly the same thing. So we'll go, when you look inside a guitar, you've got your back strips. We'll usually go to the third brace, and we'll actually take material off until we get that separation that we want. Okay? Then guess what happens? We put finish on, we glue on a bridge, right? We put the fretboard on here. We just changed a whole bunch of stuff. So when we get done then, we go into the last process when we finish a guitar. We call this the sound quality assurance station. And we'll tap on it. So this is a concerto. Yeah. Okay, so the little one I did over here was at about 110. This is the concerto. It's at about 94, 95, which is what you want, a bigger body. You want a bigger fundamental resonance. Right? So, but let's say that in fact, this fundamental resonance, instead of being 94, was 102. We would then go back through the sound hole with a finished guitar, and with a hand finger planer, we would actually plane more material off of that brace to bring that compliance in to get us to exactly the hand voicing that we're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How much does the depth of the sides of the guitar affect that?
A lot, because it's the air volume. It's the amount of air you're moving. So when a guitar, have you ever noticed when you play your guitar in a small living room or parlor or your man cave or whatever versus if you're playing it in a bigger room, how it sounds different? Okay, so when you activate this guitar, this top is moving, right? So it's pushing air two ways. It's pushing air into the room, and it's pushing air into the body. What people sometimes don't think about, you know, when you watch a classical guitar player and they sit there and they're very careful not to touch anything, that's because the room is part of the music that guitar is making. This is actually pushing sound this way, and it's pushing it back in this way, right? And that's activating the sound. The amount of air that's in here then has an impact, and that tells you how your separation needs to change, because it's the amount of air that you're pushing from the top back to the back. So the bigger body, the more frequency separation you want. Smaller body, the less. Am I making sense? Okay, so let's go back and look at what Breedlove did before we learned all of this. We call this sound optimization. And what the other acoustic guitar companies do. As the 90s and the 2000s happened, and people started talking about lean manufacturing and CNC machines, the whole concept was, we are going to build the most consistent guitars possible. What did consistent mean? It meant that I'm going to have exactly the same dimension for my top for every guitar I build. And if I say it's going to be 110 thousandths inch, every top's going to be 110 thousandths inch. And that way I'm building a really consistent guitar. What happens? You got a 30% variability in that top. So one top might be 165 hertz, one might be 185 hertz. One might have a deflection that is really soft, one might have one that's really stiff. I have built all kinds of variability into my guitar. And an example of that is that Martin for years and years has marketed, go into the retailer and play several D28s until you find the one that really speaks to you. Because they know they have variability. They just don't factor that into their manufacturing process, right? So you picked up a guitar and you say, oh my God, that thing is, right? It's me. And then you pick up a similar one and you go, man, I'm not feeling it. Have you all had that? Right? Okay, so what we're able to do by using sound optimization and doing all this analysis work is literally design into the instrument using the variability of the wood to the music advantage. And we're the only company that I know of that, as a production company, is actually one by one, individually, hand voicing every guitar that we make.
So with that, is your goal to have a more consistent sound between guitars? The same model?
Yes. Yeah. Not the same sound,
Right.
but within that model, the same sound.
Right.
But so one guitar, you know, it might be that we want a lot more complexity of tone and so forth, and we'll design to that. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of dreadnoughts, when you're playing a dreadnought and you're strumming, it's really a percussive instrument, right? And so it's dampening really quickly. Well, that's a really stiff top, and if that's a sound you're looking for, that might be something. Okay, can I take it the next step, or do you have questions about that? Okay. And this is where life got really interesting for us. Because not only does wood vary within every tree, but within every species, there's a huge variability in the musical characteristic of wood. And the problem in the past, and we were curious about this when we started this. For example, cocobolo, which is this beautiful back here, it has a specific gravity of 1.1, which means that it'll sink in water. This is Honduran mahogany. It has a specific gravity of 0.59. It's almost twice. So if which we did before, if we sanded our cocobolo backs the same thickness as our mahogany backs, What's that going to do? I've completely lost any musical, right? So what this chart shows is it shows the specific gravity of the various species of wood. And we actually sand that Cocobolo piece you've got there, and then Colin's passing around a mahogany piece here. We actually sand that Cocobolo to 60% of the thickness that we do that mahogany. Because that really lets us have that musical target for the frequency that we're trying to reach. And what that did was that allowed our exotic guitars to really be incredible musical instruments, not just beautiful to the eye. So we literally can dial in. If you say, I want this kind of a flavor to my tone, I want this kind of a feel to my action, I want this body shape because it fits me, this is how I play, that's what we do. Questions about that?
You do the separate thicknesses, so you can take the same guitar model but different woods and get a similar frequency? Or
That's a really good question. So the question is, if I take exactly the same guitar, but I just switch out the woods, the minute you switch out the woods, then you'll compensate the dimension of that wood because of the variability of the characteristic of the wood, right? So if you're walnut or you're koa or mahogany, they're all very similar in their density. If you're in the Dalbergia category, which would be rosewood, cocobolo, ovencall, then you're going to have to be quite a bit thinner. So you'll adjust it to get to the right pairing of the top and the back. And then you will get a nuance in sound, right? So we don't know this. Nobody's been able to teach me this. Why is Brazilian rosewood the most incredible tone wood for a back and sides that Mother Nature's gifted us? How can it actually reflect the bass notes with the intensity and excitement that they do, and the top notes with the shimmering? What about the characteristic of that wood that does it? This is the analogy that I use. When we were all in junior high physics, they showed us a prism and the light went through it, and we got the Roy G. Biv, right? And you saw the colors. And what we learned was that this color here, black, just means that it's not reflecting any light, right? And the white on your t-shirt is reflecting a bunch of light. And we know that different woods reflect different tones and absorb different tones, and that they have that different nuance. But what in the characteristic of the wood grain or of what makes mahogany warmer, koa warmer, Brazilian better bass, better highs, maple brighter, myrtle wood, high energy? I have no idea. I know it's true, but I don't know what about Mother Nature in that grain fiber that really makes that happen. Because we compensate for the frequency and the density and the deflection by how we build. Whereas before, that's what was making it all happen, right? So, yeah, it's a fascinating part of Mother Nature.
So then, as you're designing it with the different models in mind, you have like a particular, I guess, would the word be like tolerance of frequency range you're looking for that you've got in mind to wrestle that into?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In fact, we'll actually say, if this is the profile we're trying to get for this guitar, then these are the targets that we'll have for deflection, for relationship between the top and the back, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. And then we'll be surprised. The guitar will get done, and voila, it's magic, or wow, that didn't sound as good as I was hoping it would, and then we'll go in and carve and try to get it there. And sometimes we build that guitar.
do you have, different profiles that you'll use for same model of guitar, just to get different types of sounds out of it?
Yeah, yeah. We'll have our sound optimization goals in terms of what we're trying to reach. Absolutely. Yeah, so
But you'll actually build the same kind of guitar with a couple different profiles or something? Or do you keep the same profile for a guitar model?
oh, no. Let's say that you want a big body guitar, a concerto. We'll build a concerto that's for fingerstyle and warm and soft and beautiful. In fact, we have a Legacy. It's got a koa back and sides and an Adirondack top on it. And oh my God, it's just as warm and beautiful a guitar as you can imagine. And that's in the same series as this small little concertina here with a cocobolo and Adirondack. So this concertina was designed to be something you can just play your heart out on it. This is not a fingerstyle guitar. This is a strumming, versatile, heavy picking. So we took a small body guitar and did what normally would be a big body guitar, and we took a big body guitar and did what normally would be a small body guitar. That's the beauty of what we're able to do with our sound optimization work, right? Now we have a booklet which just got printed this weekend, literally. And I'll pass this around. It's the only one I have, but we'll get these to Pitbull Audio. And if any of you would like those, they can get them for you. And it tells the whole story of sound optimization and how we do it. Okay. There's another piece to our story that is really near and dear to my heart. It's called the Tonewood Certification Program. So, for me, the beautiful thing about an acoustic guitar is it's Mother Nature. And when you all are playing it, you're playing your music through a guitar, and you're creating your music from your soul. It's not pedals and dials and amplifiers and all that kind of stuff. An acoustic guitar is the real thing coming from your heart, right? And to me, the life of that tree is an important part of that journey. And so I have personally gone to almost all of the forests where every piece of wood that's in these guitars has grown. I've been to Guatemala, where we have a concession that does mahogany, Honduran mahogany, 85 families that really protect the Mayan biosphere forest there. Been to Hawaii, where we get our koa. Of course, Alaska many times, where we salvage our Sitka. We never use any, we have no clear-cut wood in any of these guitars. We do not use clear-cut wood, ever. I went to Madagascar. This picture here is me in Madagascar, because we were looking at ebony and Madagascar rosewood, and we found out that all the wood coming out of there was largely, or most of it, was illegally harvested. And we decided we weren't going to use any wood from Madagascar. So that trip ended up as a right, but that's why we do it, right? Is to make sure. Been to India, where the East Indian rosewood grows, very much government controlled and monitored. So part of what the whole Breedlove brand stands for is being conscious about where a tree grows, how it grows, the character of that wood, how each tree is unique and different, how we treat that uniqueness and difference to build it into a guitar, to create better, richer, more beautiful sound. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm pitching a little too hard. We should. So, the body shapes that most of us grew up on were what? A dreadnought, a parlor, an OM, right? Kind of the classic. So one of the things that we asked right from the get-go was, why? Just because that's tradition? Now that we have all this science and art that we can do, and analysis and understanding, is there a reason why those are the body shapes? Or what if we started from scratch and said, no, we're going to design the ideal body shapes? Well, The first thing that, I don't know about you guys, but a dreadnought falls off my knee all the time. It's just a big rectangle, right? It's a beautiful guitar, most popular body shape. So we said, well, what if we wanted to have a big, deep, full, huge sounding guitar, but we wanted a waist that would be way more comfortable to hold? And what if instead of sacrificing, because the story that I was always told was if you want volume, if you want all that projection, then you're not going to get complexity of tone. Because you're going to get that energy, so you're going to hit it, the bridge is going to go like that, it's going to be a quick pop of energy, you're going to hear that sound, and then on to the next one, so it's a percussive sound. Well, I said, what if we want a complex sound? What if we want beautiful tone? What am I talking about? When you, let me use Celine Dion. When she has those high notes and it comes out sharp and then it goes into this beautiful vibrato, can you visualize in your mind, in your ears mind or whatever? And how beautiful it sounds, all of a sudden you go, oh, wow. It's those overtones that make a note sound beautiful. So if you don't have time for the overtones to develop, and so you're just doing this, you're getting that first hertz, first reading on there, but you're not getting the sound building. So our challenge with the concerto was, how do we design a body depth and a shape that will give us that volume we want and yet give us complexity of tone? So what we did was, first of all, we realized that if you take a square dreadnought, there's a brace that goes across here on almost how everybody builds a guitar. Do you hear anything up there? It's right there, right? So how do we get the air volume from right here down? So what we did was we go from 4 inches deep to 5 inches, and so the volume of the sound that we're making is in here, not so much up here. We're able to keep that sound inside the box a little bit longer, let those overtones. And when you play this guitar, you'll hear all the volume you're used to in a big body guitar, but you'll be able to hear the warm, rich overtones. Does that make sense? Yes. Then we did the same thing. We had a Parlour Design that was pretty much just a standard Parlour, and we said, you know, this looks a lot more like a guitar. And it's got the waist, we've got the nice narrow, it's really comfortable to play. We changed the size of the sound hole, we were able to really generate in to get, again, that complexity of tone and still some good volume out of this. So Breedlove has 3 body shapes. It's got the concerto, which is our big body, the concert, which is our versatile, most popular in the middle body, and the concertina, which is our small body. All right. What questions can I answer? What's that?
I want to borrow this.
Sure, sure.
Have you ever experimented with doing thinner wall, like thinner bodies for those who play standing up most of the time?
Yeah. We made excuse me, we called it the Rush. It was a Brazilian back and sides and a Sitka top, and we made it a real thin body. And it was really interesting because the speed with which, when you hit it, the speed of the air moving from the top to the back and then back out the sound hole was so much faster. So it didn't have that rich, robust, but it was, I don't know, it's almost like a rock and roll guitar. I mean, it just really, when you plugged it in, it sounded terrific. When you didn't plug it in, but when you played it, it felt so different because of the speed of the sound. We built 25 of them and finally sold them all, but it was not a huge hit.
I like the thin body.
Yeah.
Profile. I love them. Yeah, I love those styles.
Yeah, if you plug it in, it's terrific.
Oh,
If you don't plug it in, it's not.
A little,
Yeah.
yeah, a little.
When you did that, did you have the similar kind of tone in mind that you were aiming for to be able to kind of shape towards, or was it just a grand experiment to see what you were going to get and then what you could
The latter.
work with from there?
The latter.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and we haven't built another one. Yeah.
Was it steel string or was it nylon?
Steel. Yeah.
Maybe you could get like better tonal qualities in such a thin body with this.
It was just such an interesting experience to feel how fast,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're playing a jumbo or a Breedlove concerto, you know, you feel that big volume and you play differently. Have you noticed how when you pick up this guitar versus that one, you want to play something different because the guitar responds to you in different ways, right? So it's just part of the whole connection and the feel that we have to an instrument.
Does the finish have any impact on the tone, whether it be gloss or like a satin type finish?
Yes. But this is largely misunderstood about finish. The number one impact that finish has is weight. So as I add weight to the top of this guitar, the frequency goes up. As I reduce weight, the frequency goes down.
So the same thing as material.
It's exactly the same.
Okay.
Whether the weight comes from the bridge, from the finish, from the top, whatever. So if you don't compensate for that, then you're going to affect the frequency relationship between the top and the back. If you do compensate for it, there's actually, we were building a custom guitar, and we actually needed a higher frequency on the top. We needed more material. We didn't have enough material. We actually put more finish on it. And it raised up the frequency and it sounded better. So do thin finishes usually sound better than heavy finishes? Absolutely. But you can compensate a lot of that depending upon how you deal with the weight.
Got it.
Yep.
That's a good question.
But does the type of like glue you use affect like the tone and stuff as well? Like,
Probably does. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't think there's anything you can do to a guitar and not affect the sound. Right? You put the strap pin on it, it's going to change it. You put a pick guard on it, it's going to change it. Can you hear it?
At that point.
Probably not. But if you hooked up all the electronics and really studied it, it would probably show up. Yeah.
But when you cut a hole and put a preamp in there,
Not so much. This is really fascinating. I mean, we don't cut holes very often here, but it's more for aesthetic. The side of a guitar is structure. The guitar music is the top moving against the back, and you want this to be as stiff and rigid as possible so that the top and the back are moving against each other. Any kind of movement that you get in the side is sucking energy,
dampening the
right? So people think that the sides have something to do with the sound. They do, if they're not rigid enough. If there's anything moving here, but when you cut that actual hole here to put the electronics in it, it does not have a significant impact on the sound.
I noticed you've placed your battery pack in different areas on different guitars. Some are up against the bottom of the neck joint, and some of them are against the back or on the sides. Is that the result of part of your tone matching process, just to
No.
find the best spot? Or?
Most of them we glue right against the battery packs are a pain in the neck. All they do is get in the way. They add weight. They're inconvenient. But it's a fact of life, right?
I noticed none of the Breedlove guitars have a pick guard on them. No minute.
Yeah, you're right. You can always add one.
Yeah,
You know, if we put one on, then you've got it.
generally it's.
But here at Pitbull Audio, they'll be happy to glue a pickguard on for you if you'd like one. I think, won't you guys?
Is that aesthetic or tone for you guys?
What?
Is the pickguard decision aesthetic or tone for you guys? The decision was.
Both. Does it affect sound? Yes. Perceivably? Maybe. I don't know. Not enough that, because, you know, it's a pain in the neck to see the scratches here. Especially when you're a retail store, people come in and they're playing them. How many times do you have to rebuff, right? Yeah. So it's a personal preference. And so we're not making a choice for you because you can always add a pickguard. Whereas if we put a pickguard on it, we were making a choice for you because you'd have glue on there. So,
Good answer.
good question though.
Do you guys make baritone guitars?
No,
Is there a particular reason why you ventured down?
just haven't messed with it yet. Be fun to do. There's so many things that'd be fun to do.
Is there a relationship between the amount of relief and action that you aim for on the strings on each guitar to the tone of the projection, or is that just a matter of preference?
This is a huge issue. And every dealer gives us different feedback. If I were setting up a guitar for me, I want the strings as close to the fretboard as possible because I don't play really hard and I'd rather have it be really easy to play. The problem is if you really dig in, then you get buzz. So, I mean, if it's moving that far, if it's really close, you're gonna get some buzz. We like to think that all our setups are done at a very happy medium. But I'll bet you guys get requests to raise or lower actions from customers, right?
Heavy-handed people who play with thicker picks, people play with more pick, less finger. But yeah, we've got our standards that we set to. That's the same thing, like a happy medium.
Right.
But people will send guitars back that we're like, we'll send it out like this guitar plays beautifully. People will send it back, it buzzes, and we're just like, well, yeah, if you're playing with a nickel, it's gonna buzz.
Yeah.
You know, everyone does different things.
You know, and heavier strings create more music. Lighter strings create less, but are easier to play. So all of those are compromises.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the different tone woods and styles and sounds of the guitars, you know, for different playing styles. What do you guys do to help stores like Pitbull Audio that sell your guitars know all this so they can actually help the customers?
So the Breedlove Difference that I just passed around, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. We will help them with that whole story that they can put up on their website. Brian, what's his title? Acoustic guitar manager? I don't know. He's our Breedlove guy.
Main buyers for music store line.
Yep. He's been in our shop. He's walked through all of the, he's seen real life, everything that we do. There he is. So we do the training and then certainly if any Pitbull Audio customers would like to design a custom guitar or whatever, we're happy to work through the store with you all on doing that as well.
So
This
yeah,
store's staffed by
I'm
musicians.
curious, like if somebody came in and say, hey, I want a finger picking style guitar, you know, do they know enough to know which model to look at or what woods or?
Can I tell you a couple of stories,
Yes.
if you guys don't mind? Do you know who Keb Mo is, the blues singer from down in Nashville? Well, he's a good friend, personal family friend of my wife's and mine and him and his wife. Because in Nashville we've gotten to know each other. Well, he came out to design a nylon string guitar, and he wanted a 14 fret orchestra style body because he didn't have one. and he mostly plays 12 fret parlors. He's got a Gibson 12 fret parlor that he plays, Kidmo model. So I said, "Are you sure that's what you want?" He goes, "Yep, that's what I want." So we got him an orchestra 14 fret guitar to play. And I'm sitting there watching him play, and he plucks. He doesn't strum, he doesn't pick, he plucks, right? And he's just telling me, "Man, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it." So I went and got a Parlour or small body. In this case, it was a Bedell guitar, so it was a Parlour. It would have been a concertina and a Breedlove that had 12 frets to the body, so it had that tighter string action. And he started to play it, and he goes, "Yeah, this is exactly what I want." And I said, so people don't know what they want, they know what they like, right? They know what they like to play. So we built him a Brazilian Sitka spruce Parlour 12 fret nylon string guitar, and he uses it for most of his recording, and he just absolutely loves it. The next story is that there's a country western songwriter named Dean Dillon. Most of us don't know songwriters' names, but Dean Dillon is, well, he wrote almost all of George Strait's #1 songs. He's a huge country. In Nashville, he was the BMI of the 20th century songwriter, et cetera, et cetera. And he writes all his music on a nylon string guitar. And he had a really crappy old guitar that he's writing all these incredible songs on. So I said, "Dean, come on out." So he comes out, and he's going through our wood stacks, and he finds this beautiful piece of walnut. Do we have any walnut here?
Do not have any walnut sets.
Okay. So he finds this beautiful piece of walnut. Now, walnut, if you look on that chart, is very similar to a koa or a mahogany in terms of it's a lower specific gravity. So I said, "Dean, if you want to have a nylon string guitar, you don't want walnut for a back." And he goes, "No, this isn't for the back, this is for the top." I go, "What? You want me to build you a nylon string guitar with a walnut top?" And he goes, "Yep." And he found a matching one that he wanted for the back. So he put his name, he wanted a big Dean Dillon across here. The walnut was highly figured, and he wanted turquoise and green abalone to be part of some of the figure and the wood. And it was a very garish guitar. If you, well, you guys know the song Tennessee Whiskey that Chris Stapleton made famous? Okay. Well, anyway, I don't blame you for not being country. That's cool. Anyway, because he has his guitar in all of it. Got his own movie and all that stuff. Anyway, so he leaves, and I get my team together, and I go, "What are we going to do? This guitar is going to be embarrassing." So somebody came up with the idea. We took that walnut top, and we cut it as thin, like paper, as we could, and we glued it to a piece of red cedar.
Veneer.
Because red cedar is perfect for nylon, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, he thinks he's got the most incredible sounding nylon string guitar you could imagine with a walnut top on it. And it's a red cedar top. So it's just fun to figure out, how do you match up what a person is drawn to with their eyes and their style and what they love, and what sound, and then what feel.
Layering it like that probably gave it a unique sound, though.
What's that?
Layering it like that probably gave it a unique sound.
Yeah, and luckily he plugs it in most of the time,
Oh, okay.
and it sounds really good plugged in.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Any other questions I can answer? Because otherwise you guys can play some guitars, huh?
What's your favorite combination? Like top and back?
You know, we did in fact, this is something you all may want to do. You can log in on Breedlove, and you can design your own custom guitar. And by doing it, you qualify. We're going to do a drawing this year, and the person that we pull out of that is going to actually get to build that guitar. So we did this last year, and we had 25,000 people design guitars. And guess what the most popular top wood of those 25,000 designs was? You'll never get it. Redwood. I know. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. Well, Breedlove is really good at building rosewood back inside redwood top, beautiful, warm fingerstyle sounding guitars. So that's probably one of Breedlove's real trademarks. Half of the guitars that we build in Bend, Oregon are built with myrtle wood. And this is just an incredible sounding wood. It's got so much energy. I think this may be, as an all-purpose tone wood, may be the best tone wood that Mother Nature's given us. I mean, I'd take a Brazilian any day, but you know, this is a $2,000 guitar, and it just absolutely sounds incredible.
Yeah.
So, myrtle wood and probably redwood East Indian for Breedlove would be magic ones. Now, the second most popular backwood on that survey was cocobolo.
Yeah.
So this is something that we've gotten really good at building with, and it's just so pretty. Now, cocobolo is in the same family as Brazilian and East Indian rosewood. It's a Dalbergia. It's just denser. So we have to carve it thinner to get the sound. But I know some of you had a chance to play this. This is just a sweet guitar.
Do you
Yeah.
use zebra wood at all?
What?
Zebra wood?
Zebra wood?
Yeah.
We have built with zebra wood. Colin, what character? I don't even know what characteristic zebra wood is.
So few of them, and it was before we were actually doing optimization. So its character was all across the board, and it would have been dependent on some old build traits and build styles. That,
Gotcha.
you know, it's definitely more dense as far as its pore level. So I would akin it a lot to like a striped ebony or something that's going to have that low end
Yeah.
frequency and that low end resonance. But, yeah.
I remember when I first bought Breedlove, we built a guitar out of zebra wood. Yeah. I mean, you can build a guitar out of almost anything, right? And with our sound optimization work, it helps us kind of learn how to do it. You're not going to get a great guitar out of almost anything, but
My
Yeah.
son's got a classical with zebra wood, and we were picking it out, and it's just the sound of that one just kind of stood out from the other ones.
yeah. Do we have a drawing that we're going to do?
Sure do.
Yeah, we're right about there.
Cool.
How's
yeah,
that?
Let's do this, Tom.
Are you going to help with that?
Yeah, you want to give somebody a guitar?
Sure.
Cool. Well, hey guys, you know, on behalf of Pitbull Audio, thank you all for coming out. Tom, thank you. We got this awesome Breedlove Discovery Dreadnought we're going to be giving away. Does everybody have a raffle ticket? Cool, cool.
You need one? Going once, going twice. I'll get the half of it too.
Yeah, put the other half in here, and then we'll let Tom draw. Cool. All right.
So go ahead and put the other half in there. Let everybody know that is a $549 retail price. Right there.
Sure is. And it comes with, we got the case back here and everything, but figured we would show you just how beautiful this is. And then we're going to open this up and let Tom draw the winner. All right, cool. So who's got? It ends in 183.
Nice.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, man. There you go. There's your new guitar. Here's your case. And yeah, man, you know, in case, I think it was you that was asking before, if you guys do have any questions, or, you know, if you know exactly what you want, if you don't know exactly what you want, and you're just interested in getting a Breedlove acoustic guitar, definitely come on down. Myself, any of the other guys here, we definitely can help you out. Even if you just have like a general idea, you know, hey, I'm just fingerstyle player, I'm looking for something with a little bit of a woodier, kind of bassier tone. Whatever the case is, we can definitely help guide you, or if you come in and you go, hey, I know exactly what I want, we can do that for you as well. So definitely encourage you to do that.
As I mentioned earlier, Brian's been through our shop. He's been through all of the sound optimization stuff that we do. He knows as much or more than I do, so he's a great resource for you.
Oh, certainly not more. Not even as much.
Do you guys do tours of your facility?
No, but if you're a special guest at Pitbull Audio, we'll do it when you come up. But we don't do it to the public. Yes?
I got a technical question. I didn't have a chance to actually ask that, but I don't know if this will be a valid question. To me, when you build a guitar, you know, the whole thing is resides in how much is your angle, the departure from the top of it. Did you guys explain anything about like the angle, you know, how you tell the angle at the neck versus, you know, the top of this thing?
The neck body joint, he's looking
Oh.
about that angle that you.
Colin, do you want to address that one?
For the neck body joint, essentially, there's the whole premonition about a flat top guitar. And essentially, these are not flat top guitars at all. They are radiused. So there's actually, what is it, a 16-foot radius versus the 20-foot radius in the top and the back that is sanded in there that actually lines up that break angle off of the fretboard extension and its connection from the heel of the neck to the body.
What would you call the number of that angle?
The number of that angle, I don't have off the top of my head. I'd have to actually look that one up. You know, it's essentially sanded into the radius of the top. So it's pre-profiled, and it literally is a profiled dimension that we sand our tops down to on the rim of the instrument before they get built.
And if you do that, is there any particular reason you started to take more wood here as it approaches the bridge?
In our process, absolutely. We actually go back and we will hand sand out all of that fretboard, and the fretboard projection as it goes across into the bridge itself right there has a determined distance and height that it actually needs to live at before we actually apply any of the saddle, any of the strings, any of the nut to have it set up. So every single one of these that gets finalized out, we actually do a hand sand out on that projection angle of the build to be able to hit 100%.
I have built a few guitars in the past, and I find that to be the most controversial part of the building process, is
What?
to get this angle.
What joint were you using as far as the heel to body to neck connection?
I put it like 10 degrees or 7 degrees.
Okay. But was it like a mortise and tenon joint or a dovetail, or were you doing a bolt-on assembly?
What kind of something?
Smart man. Yeah, very smart. Yeah, now you're getting into the tech specs of it.
Yeah, I was just, that's what I meant to actually ask you earlier, but I said, I don't know if it would be okay for you guys to say that.
Yeah,
Secret information.
Oh, you want me to pass out some guitars and we can all play, or what? It'd be fun to
Thank you
do.
very much, Tom. This is
Yeah.
great. Really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, Congrats.
All right.
I do have another question. I noticed that